stop walking! We need to see your papers right now!
I just got off work. I'm heading home.
Stop right there!
I served in the Army 12 years. I'm a U.S. citizen.
I said stop right there, now!
I need my lawyer.
Grab the strap! Don't move! Hands where I can see them!
Hey, easy! Back off, now!
Sir, stop walking. We need to see your papers right now. I just got off work. I'm heading home. Stop right there. I served in the Army 12 years. I'm a U.S. citizen. I said stop right there. Now, greater than I need my lawyer. Grab the strap. Don't move. Hands where I can see him. Hey, back off now. Greater than. A man who spent 12 years fighting for this country came home to be beaten on a public sidewalk by the people he served. Not in some back alley, not behind closed doors. Right there on the pavement under the midday sun, with security cameras recording every punch, every kick, every second of it. For federal agents took a decorated Army veteran to the ground like he was less than nothing. And when it was over, a jury made sure they understood exactly what that cost them. The afternoon sun was high and bright when it happened. The kind of day where nothing feels wrong, where the world looks calm and ordinary and safe. A Wednesday just past 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The kind of time when most people are at work, when streets are quiet, when nothing feels urgent or dangerous. Darnell Whitfield was walking home from his shift at the Veterans Affairs Medical Center 3 blocks away. He did this every day. Same route, same time, same sidewalk. He'd done it dozens of times without incident. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. Darnell was 34, 6'1", broad-shouldered from years of military conditioning. Though he'd kept the discipline even after leaving the Army. 12 years of service, 2 deployments overseas. A combat veteran who'd been decorated for actions that put his life on the line for people he'd never meet. He'd come home and built something quiet and stable. A small apartment, a job at the VA, helping other veterans navigate the system. A 7-year-old daughter named Kayla, who lived with him every other week. He was wearing a plain gray t-shirt, dark jeans, and sneakers. No uniform, no ID visible. Nothing on him except his phone, his keys, and a small backpack with his lunch container inside. He was walking, hands in his pockets, earbuds in, halfway through a podcast about military history. The black SUV with government plates was parked on the street about 40 feet ahead of him. Darnell didn't notice it at first. When he pulled one earbud out, he saw 4 men stepping out of the vehicle onto the sidewalk directly in his path. The CCTV camera mounted on the corner of a dry cleaning shop had a wide-angle view of the entire block. It captured the scene from above, the angle clear enough to see faces, read body language, and document every physical interaction. The footage would later be pulled by investigators, backed up by the business owner, and presented as Exhibit A in a federal criminal trial. Lead agent Todd Garrett was the first to speak. A stocky man in his mid-40s with a buzz cut and a permanent expression of suspicion. Garrett had been with IC for 14 years. His record was thick with complaints, most of them dismissed. 2, resulting in written warnings that changed nothing about how he operated. He stepped into Darnell's path, his chest puffed out slightly, his right hand resting on his belt near his holster. "Sir, stop walking. We need to see your papers right now." Darnell pulled his other earbud out. Confused? "What?" "Your identification. Citizenship documents. Show them to us now." Darnell blinked, genuinely thrown. "I just got off duty. I work at the VA clinic right down the street. I'm going home." Agent Sean Hale, standing to Garrett's left, stepped forward. Hale was younger, early 30s, with sharp eyes and an energy that read as eager rather than calm. He'd been with IC for 6 years and had modeled himself entirely on Garrett's approach. "We have reason to believe you might be in this country illegally. Cooperate and this goes fast." Illegally, Darnell repeated the word landing wrong. I served in the United States Army for 12 years. 2 tours. I'm a citizen. I was born right here. Garrett's expression didn't change. Not even a flicker of doubt. Military service doesn't prove citizenship. We need documentation. Birth certificate, passport, anything. I don't carry my birth certificate on me. Darnell said, his voice still calm, but a threat of frustration starting to show. I just got off work. I'm walking home. I don't have those things on me right now. The third agent, Paul Kovac, moved to Darnell's right side, creating a loose triangle around him. Kovac was the tallest of the group, lean and angular, with a kind of stillness that came from years of training. He didn't say anything yet, but his positioning said everything. He was there to cut off escape routes. The fourth agent, Brian Tate, hung back near the SUV, his hand on his radio, recording the scene on a dash-mounted camera that was already running. Tate was the newest, barely a year and a half into the job. And he was watching everything Garrett did like a student watching a teacher. Darnell looked at each of them, reading the situation. For federal agents on a public sidewalk surrounding a man for no apparent reason, he'd seen how these encounters could go. He'd seen the videos. He'd heard the stories from other veterans at the clinic. Men and women who'd come home and been treated like threats by the country they'd bled for. I want to call my lawyer, Darnell said, reaching for his phone. Garrett's hand shot out and grabbed Darnell's wrist. Put the phone away. Darnell pulled his arm back, not violently, just firmly. The way you pull away from something you didn't consent to. Don't grab me. That was the moment the footage showed everything shift. Garrett's face changed. The suspicion turned to something harder, colder. He stepped in closer, his body language going from authoritative to aggressive. You're resisting a federal officer, Garrett said, his voice dropping low. Last chance. Turn around, hands behind your back. I'm not resisting anything, Darnell replied, his voice steady. You grabbed me without cause. I have done nothing wrong. Turn around, Garrett repeated. Not until you tell me what I've actually done, Darnell said. Garrett nodded once, a signal, and then Hale moved. The CCTV footage is brutally clear on what happened next. Hale stepped in from the left and drove his shoulder into Darnell's chest. Not a warning shove. A full-body collision, the kind of force designed to knock someone off balance. Darnell stumbled back 2 steps, but didn't fall. He'd spent years in combat conditioning. His body knew how to absorb impact, but Garrett was already moving. He grabbed the back of Darnell's shirt and yanked him backward. At the same time, Kovac swept his leg from behind, taking Darnell's feet out from under him. Darnell hit the concrete sidewalk hard, his back slamming into the pavement with a sound that the camera's audio picked up as a sharp thud. His phone flew from his hand and skittered across the ground. He was down for maybe 2 seconds before Garrett was on top of him. A knee driving into his back, one hand pressing the side of Darnell's face into the concrete. Hale moved in and grabbed Darnell's right arm, twisting it behind his back at an angle that made Darnell cry out. Stop moving, Garrett barked, pressing harder. I'm not moving, Darnell gasped. His face pressed sideways against the pavement, gravel and grit grinding into his cheek. I'm not moving. Kovac stood over him, watching his shadow falling across Darnell's body. He didn't touch him. He didn't need to. The message was already sent. The whole thing lasted less than 15 seconds from the first. Shoulder hit to Darnell, being face down on the sidewalk with a federal agent's knee in his back. Shoo-woo seconds. But the footage captured every millisecond of it, and every millisecond mattered. A woman named Sandra Okafor was walking her dog on the opposite side of the street. She stopped dead when she saw what was happening. Her phone was in her hand because she'd been taking photos of her dog earlier. She started recording immediately, her hands shaking slightly. but the camera steady enough to get a clear view of the scene. She would later tell investigators she almost called 911 before she realized they were already federal agents. Garrett kept Darnell pinned for nearly a full minute. During that time, Hale cuffed his hands behind his back. Darnell didn't fight. He didn't struggle. He kept his body still and his voice low, speaking only when he was directly addressed. "What are you charging me with?" Darnell asked, his voice muffled against the concrete. "Resisting arrest and failure to provide identification," Garrett said. "I never resisted," Darnell said. "I asked for my lawyer. That's my right." Garrett didn't respond. He pulled Darnell to his feet, gripping him roughly by the arm in the back of his shirt, and shoved him toward the SUV. Darnell stumbled, his balance thrown off by his hands being cuffed behind him. Hale caught him by the shoulder, not to steady him, but hard enough to jolt him forward. Tate opened the back door of the SUV as Garrett pushed Darnell toward it. Darnell's head connected with the top of the door frame. Not hard enough to split skin, but hard enough that Darnell's whole body went rigid for a second, his eyes squeezing shut. Sandra O'Capper's video captured the impact. It was clear. Deliberate enough to look like negligence at best, intentional at worst. The whole sequence from Garrett's first demand to Darnell being loaded into the vehicle took 4 minutes and 22 seconds, according to the CCTV timestamp. A man from the dry cleaning shop, a Korean-American named Thomas Park, who owned the business and had seen everything through his front window, came out with his own phone. He recorded Garrett getting into the driver's seat, Bennett reading off a plate number into his radio, the SUV pulling away from the curb. He also pulled up his security system and confirmed the footage was saving properly. He then did something that would end up being one of the most important actions in the entire case. He called 911 and reported what he'd seen. Not an immigration issue, an assault. A man being taken to the ground on a public sidewalk by federal agents without any visible cause. The 911 call was logged at 1:14 p.m. The IC field office was 20 minutes away. During that drive, Darnell sat in the back of the SUV, his hands cuffed, a bruise already forming on the side of his face. A raw scrape on his cheek from the concrete still stinging. He didn't speak unless spoken to. He'd spent enough time in the military to know when talking made things worse. When they arrived, they took him into a small room. Concrete block walls painted beige, a metal table, fluorescent lights that buzzed slightly. Garrett sat across from him, a manila folder open in front of him that contained almost nothing. A single printed page with what looked like an anonymous online tip. Name? Garrett said. Darnell Whitfield. Date of birth. Darnell gave it. Place of birth. Fort Worth, Texas. Garrett wrote it down. His expression giving nothing away. Military service. United States Army. 12 years. Honorably discharged. Rank at discharge. Staff Sergeant. Garrett closed the folder. We're going to verify all of this. If anything doesn't check out, you're looking at harboring charges on top of everything else. There's nothing to check out. Darnell said, his voice flat. Everything I told you is true. You can pull my service record in about 30 seconds. You could have done that on the sidewalk instead of putting me on the ground. Garrett's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. The verification took 11 minutes. A phone call to the Department of Defense confirmed everything Darnell had said. Honorably discharged Staff Sergeant. Born in Fort Worth, United States citizen by birth. 12 years of service, including 2 combat deployments. A military record that was completely clean. Garrett's supervisor, a woman named Linda Vasquez, was the one who made the call to release him. She walked into the interrogation room, read the verification on her tablet, and looked at Garrett with an expression that was equal parts anger and disbelief. Release him, she said. Now, he resisted. Garrett started. He didn't resist anything. Vasquez cut him off. There's footage from 3 separate cameras. He's a decorated Army veteran. He's a citizen. Release him and pray nobody's seen that footage yet. They had. It was already too late. Sandra Okafor had posted her video online before the SUV even reached the field office. Thomas Park had shared the CCTV footage with 2 local news stations by the time Darnell was sitting in that interrogation room. The dry cleaning shop's exterior camera angle was particularly damning because it showed the entire sidewalk. Showed Darnell walking calmly, showed the agents approach him, showed the assault begin without provocation, showed him go down, showed him being loaded into the vehicle. The video hit local news within the hour. By the evening, it was national. Darnell was released at 2:03 p.m. with no charges filed, no paperwork. No explanation beyond a tour statement from Vasquez. That said, there had been a misunderstanding regarding the target of an ongoing investigation. No apology, no acknowledgement of what had been done to him. He walked out of the field office into the bright afternoon, his wrists raw from the cuffs, his cheeks scraped raw from the concrete. A dull ache spreading through his back where he'd hit the ground. He stood in the parking lot for a long time, just breathing, before he took out his phone and called his sister. "They put me on the ground," he said. His voice didn't break. It was quieter than that, heavier. 4 of them on the sidewalk for walking home from work. His sister, a nurse named Patricia, who lived 2 towns over, was on the phone with an attorney before the call ended. Should federal agents who commit assault under color of law face mandatory minimum sentences with no possibility of reduced charges? Comment below. Because what happened to Darnell Whitfield on that sidewalk wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was for federal agents beating a man who served this country and doing it in broad daylight like they knew no one was watching. They were wrong about that. The attorney Patricia found was a man named Howard Graves, a former military prosecutor who'd spent the last 15 years doing civil rights cases. He watched the footage within an hour of receiving it and called Patricia back with 3 words: "This is criminal." He wasn't talking about a civil lawsuit, though that would come later. He was talking about federal criminal charges against the agents themselves. Deprivation of rights under color of law, assault, false imprisonment, the kind of charges that carried real prison time. Graves filed a formal complaint with the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division that same evening. He attached the CCTV footage, Sandra Okafor's video, the 911 call recording, and Thomas Park's statement. He also included Darnell's medical records from the next morning when Darnell went to urgent care and was diagnosed with a concussion, a bruised kidney from where Garrett's knee had pressed into his back, deep abrasions on his face, and severe bruising across his back and shoulder. The FBI opened an investigation 48 hours later. The investigation was thorough and fast. Investigators pulled every piece of footage available. The dry cleaning shop CCTV, Sandra's phone video, the dash camera in the icy SUV, even a Ring doorbell camera from a house down the block that had caught the tail end of the encounter. They interviewed witnesses. They pulled the agents' personnel files. What they found in those files was damning, independent of the Whitfield incident. Garrett had 14 complaints in his career. 12 were dismissed. 2 resulted in written warnings. He'd never been suspended, never been retrained, never faced any real consequence for a pattern of aggressive behavior that overwhelmingly targeted men of color. Hale had 7 complaints, all dismissed. Kovac had 4, 2 written warnings. Tate, the newest agent, had no complaints. But his training records showed he'd been paired exclusively with Garrett for his first year, learning the job by watching a man who operated entirely outside the boundaries of lawful conduct. The grand jury heard the evidence over the course of 3 weeks. The footage was played in its entirety. Witnesses testified. Medical experts testified about the injuries Darnell had sustained. Former IC agents testified about what proper procedure looked like and how far the Whitfield encounter deviated from it. The indictment came down on a Monday. All 4 agents, all charged with deprivation of rights under color of law. Garrett and Hale faced additional charges of assault, resulting in bodily injury. The trial started 6 weeks later in federal court. The jury was 11 white jurors and 1 black juror. A mix of ages and backgrounds that the prosecution and defense had both fought over during jury selection. The prosecution's case was simple because it didn't need to be complicated. They played the footage, all of it, every angle, every second. They let the jury watch Darnell walk calmly down the sidewalk. They let them watch for agents around him. They let them watch Hale's shoulder hit, Garrett's grab, Kovac's leg sweep, Darnell hitting the concrete, Garrett's knee in his back, the head hitting the doorframe. Then they played it again, this time with the audio from Darnell's phone, which had started recording when he'd activated the emergency function before the agents grabbed him. His voice pressed against the ground, asking what he'd done wrong. Garrett's voice pressing harder, telling him to stop moving when he was already completely still. Darnell took the stand himself. He sat straight in the witness chair, his posture military even out of uniform, and answered every question with the same calm, precise delivery he'd used his entire service career. Mr. Whitfield, when Agent Garrett first approached you, what did you think was happening? I didn't know. I thought it might be a case of mistaken identity. I'd seen that happen before. When they grabbed you, did you resist in any way? No? Why not? Darnell paused. He looked at the jury, not at the attorney. Because I've spent 12 years in situations where one wrong move gets people killed. I knew that fighting back would make things worse. I also knew that I hadn't done anything wrong, so I stayed calm and tried to figure out what was happening. Did the agents ask you anything before the physical altercation? They asked for citizenship papers. I told them I was a veteran. They didn't ask anything else. They didn't try to verify what I said. They didn't give me time to provide any information. They went straight to putting me on the ground. Mr. Whitfield, after you were released, did any of the agents apologize? No. Did any of them acknowledge that an error had been made? No. Did any of them ask if you were injured? No. The defense tried to argue self-defense, claiming Darnell's refusal to comply constituted a threat. The prosecution dismantled it in seconds. A threat? How? The prosecutor asked during closing arguments, gesturing to T.